Alright, as we get started here, we're now at 6.7 cases with almost 88,000 deaths. Over 93,000 in Oasis County with almost 1,500 deaths. Since April 2nd, the 7-day average, only 3% have been positive. Over 600,000 tests have been taken with almost almost 19,000 positive tests. Over 1,700 people in ICU, with over 10,000 hospitalized. Vaccinations, 72.4% have had at least one dose, 61% have been fully vaccinated. 17.6 million, and total was 21 million. United States alone, 564, 218, 66.2. How's the local schools doing? Well, the other day we had 2 cases for ECC. How about today and yesterday? Well, Friday, 0 for that. 7th, 6. We're doing great. Which is good news. So, we'll have to see and wait until, because compared to August, the highest number ever, 2 high schools, the highest number for August was 26. 26 was the highest number for the 23rd. To September, 10 was the highest number. October, we were at 1. November, we had a pattern. December, we had a low pattern. 19 was the highest number after Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Martin Luther King Day. January had 194 cases. Total cases for February would be 22. 3 cases for March. And total cumulative cases would be 489. We're almost at 500 with the cumulative cases. At junior high students are almost halfway to 400. Almost the same thing, because intermediate and junior high are almost at the same length here. Elementary students are almost at 200. Transportation had probably 0. That's 37 including cases. So in total, divided by 9, well, it'd be over decimal points. I don't have time for math anyway, but how about what else has been going on since COVID? Well, if you remember watching Dr. Phil, the term Covidiots, which brings us to our flashback Friday. If you remember back in 2018, you remember 2 years ago during the pandemic, there was a thing. There was a thing that Dr. Phil talked about. It's called Covidiots. It's people who ignore the rules, who ignore the rules of the pandemic. The Macmillan Dictionary defines Covidiot as an insult in term for someone who ignores health advice about COVID-19. Urban Dictionary takes a pretty similar approach to defining Covidiot as someone who ignores the warnings regarding public or health or safety. In that episode, it focused on a lot of things. People who just had parties, went to spring break, ignored the rules, ignored the guidelines. I mean, during that time, you violated the governor's order, you probably go to jail. Sorry about that. If you probably ignored the governor's order, you'd be sitting in jail wondering. You'd be sitting in jail. Now focusing on this other kid. I mean, remember 2 years ago we talked about that Ava who was in Dartville who licked the toilet seat? Another person did that. He won his 15 minutes of fame, but he checking out because he was probably shy. He was probably shy. That's why a lot of people checking out, but don't check it out on these tips either because this could help you one day. We need to make sure that we're wearing a mask a lot. Mask is very important. Social distance, hand washing, sanitizing your hands, disinfecting your area. Lysol works best. In 2 weeks from now, the mask mandate for all transportation is going to be lifted. So that's pretty good news. If you're under 2, no mask. Medical condition, let them know beforehand. If you're quarantined, you need to stay home. You're diagnosed with COVID, get the vaccine. Stay for 5 days. After the 5th day, you get tested again, making sure. And if your family member has COVID, it's your choice to tell. I'm not making the right decision for you. Later in the hour, an update from Will Smith. He's now banned from the Academy for 10 years. We'll tell you why.
Not there anymore.
And in a moment, some new testimony. This time from years ago. Remember the January 6th riots? Well, Trump's daughter is now spoke out days after the riot to confirm her suspicion. We'll tell you about that when we come back. Up front tonight, remember the January 6th riot in Washington? Well, if you haven't watched the broadcast, we told you about the riot that happened because of President Biden. Because Trump thinks results were hacked. So he ordered everyone to go march in the White House because of freedom of speech. Now, his daughter testifies before the committee. Watch.
Back here in Washington, Ivanka Trump testified in private today before the congressional committee investigating the January 6th assault on the U.S. Capitol. The former president's daughter and senior advisor was in the Oval Office that day. She was expected to be questioned about a phone call she allegedly witnessed in which her father tried to pressure former Vice President Mike Pence to reject Joe Biden's 2020 election victory.
So now that's what we know so far. So what else can be happening? So what else could happen? Now that he testifies, what else could happen? I mean, she testifies, sorry. Now to a story that's probably going all around. Remember the border thing that happened years ago? Well, Governor Greg Abbott has a new border. With backups along the international border. State Senator Joey Hossa told 3 News that he said that each vehicle was talking almost 45 minutes before the state took over. So, what else is being done? Let's take a look.
Senator Chewy Hinojosa told 3 News that Governor Abbott's new safety checks at international border crossings now have traffic backed up for more than half a dozen miles. This was part of Governor Abbott's strategy to slow migrants from coming into the country. Traffic coming across the international border has always been checked by federal officials, but now the governor has ordered state troopers to inspect all vehicles for a safety check. Hinojosa says that he has heard that each vehicle is taking almost 45 minutes for the state to look over.
I checked with our DPS, I verified with the customs officials. I had a conversation with Congressman Henry Cuellar. So we have a real bottleneck and a real serious problem along the border.
Now, the senator also tells 3 News that the new safety vehicle inspection plan at the international bridges is not workable or practical. He believes it's going to damage our economy if it continues.
Yeah, it will damage the economy, costing us taxpayers a lot of money. And speaking of our tax dollars, April 15th is, and speaking of tax dollars, April 15th is coming up. Have you filed your tax? Have you decided to file your taxes yet? That's the deadline to pay your taxes. In the old days, before we tell you the loopholes, let's find out about people who went to jail for not paying taxes. There's the old saying, if you don't pay your taxes, because if you don't pay taxes, those who attempt to evade paying their taxes on purpose can face a federal crime charge and carry a jail sentence of 5 years, penalties reaching the size of $100,000. That's according to the Texas tax fraud. According to Hampton Law Firm, if you feel you've been wrongly accused of committing fraud, it's important you seek advice from a knowledgeable, truant county criminal attorney. Professional advice. The common ways you can accidentally commit fraud in your taxes: filing, return, missing incorrect information, incorrectly claiming tax credits, abusing tax shelters, claiming wrong directions, claiming false deductions, taxing inflated deductions, failing to report income earned under reporting income, falling victim to tax prep or fraud. During the big freeze last year, the tax deadline had to change because everyone coping with the big freeze. And so this year, everything's going back to normal now with the big freeze and COVID. What about during COVID? Everyone had to wear masks. What about paying taxes COVID? Percent of U.S. households paid no federal income tax last year as COVID took a toll. More than half American households paid no federal income tax last year due to COVID relief funds, tax credits, stimulus, according to a new report. The non-restrained tax policy center estimates 50% of U.S. households pay no federal income taxes for 2021, up substantially last year from 44% before the pandemic. Since most workers pay payroll taxes, the share of Americans paying neither payroll nor federal income taxes was only 19%, 2017, right before the crisis. Not just income taxes, it's everything else. But what about the tax code? What about the loopholes? Can you go through the loopholes or avoid those loopholes? Or try to figure out those loopholes? We'll tell you when we return. Now for an update on the story we focused on 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we told you about Will Smith slapping Chris Rock after Rock talked about his wife. So far, we looked into for what has happened. We looked at memes, funny comedy, from Bully Parker to Will Smith playing the Oscar the Shark to Chris Rock playing Marty from Madagascar. The update. Now the Academy decided to ban Smith for 10 years after what had happened. Let's take a look. Here's Jamie Yukas.
Hope the Academy invites me back. Thank you.
That won't be happening, with the Academy banning Will Smith from the Oscars and all other Academy events for a decade. Media critic Eric Deggans.
What do you think about this decision?
It was a tougher punishment than I expected.
The ban comes after Smith slapped comedian Chris Rock. Oh, wow! In a statement, the Academy says the 94th Oscars were meant to be a celebration of the many individuals in our community who did incredible work this past year. However, those moments were overshadowed by the unacceptable and harmful behavior we saw Mr. Smith exhibit on stage. During our telecast, we did not adequately address the situation in the room. For this, we are sorry. Smith says he's sorry too, after taking heat from Hollywood as well as fans. He resigned from the Academy 1 week ago.
I wonder if they didn't backfire a little bit. They couldn't suspend him. He already resigned. So they had to do something that was more impactful, short of taking away his Oscar.
He still faces the judgment of moviegoers. His films have grossed more than $4 billion in the U.S. and Canada alone.
His favorability ratings have dropped. I think what Will Smith has to do is to prove that he's not secretly a toxic person.
Will Smith gets to keep his Oscar for now, but what we don't know is whether he can be nominated for future roles and whether he can appeal the ban. Late today, the actor released a statement saying he accepts and respects the Academy's decision. Nora? Jamie Yukas, thank you.
Now going to these parodies, this was one. There was one from there was these parodies made on YouTube. It had over a lot of views actually, and people clicked on this and clicked on those things. And let me tell you something. I don't care, but what has to happen is it doesn't matter whether you think it'll be funny for YouTube or get you a lot of money. No, what you stole was something that you used without permission. That is. You guys stole it. You photoshopped Chris Rock and Will Smith from Bully Parker, like Will Smith slapping Mary Jane, Will Smith smacking Bully McGuire. But the thing I don't understand is why did he resign when the Academy banned him for 10 years? We'll keep you posted on what's been happening. Give me a break continues in just a moment. Our next issue is still about paying taxes. How would you feel about saving money when you're paying your taxes, huh? We're going to tell you about it tonight. Tonight we're going to focus on those tax loopholes that would help you and me save money. A tax loophole is a tax law provision or shortcoming of legislation that allows individuals and companies to lower tax liability. Loopholes are legal. They're legal and allow income assets to be moved for the purpose of avoiding taxes. It's different than lesser-known tax deductions or strategies that are initially available for taxpayers to save money. To break down how loopholes work, there's common examples in how they differ from, like what makes a loophole. So let's look at those three examples. It's your IRA. Under the current law, taxpayers earning over $140,000 annually are barred from contributing to Roth IRA, which allows tax savings to grow tax-free. Since 2010, high-income earners could circumvent this limit by converting traditional IRA into both IRA. It's called the backdoor Roth IRA. Once income taxes are paid, the initial contributions are gained retirement savings will go tax-free without required minimum distributions. Foreign diverted intangible income. This income is a portion of U.S. corporations' intangible income that comes from serving foreign markets. The White House says an intellectual loophole was enhanced by Trump tax plan when he was president, which allows corporations to get tax breaks by moving assets abroad. So tax season is coming up. So what you can do, a financial advisor can be a key resource helping you figure out your taxes. Finding a qualified financial advisor doesn't have to be hard. So our Assets Free tool matches you with the free financial advisors who could serve your area. And you can interview your advisor matches at no cost to decide which one's right for you. If you're ready to find an advisor who can help you achieve your financial goals, get started now. If you don't know whether you're better off with the standard deduction versus minimized, you might want to read up on and do some math. Educating yourself before tax return deadline could help you save a significant amount of money. Smart Asset has covered you with a number of free tax resources, free online tax resources to help you during tax season. Check out the income tax calculator to get started today. Let's look at some other tax loopholes. The AOTC, which is the American Opportunity Tax Credit, the Savers Tax Credit, Earned Income Tax Credit, that's for the middle class. Mortgage interest deduction, lifetime learning credit, child tax credit, retirement savings accounts, cash charitable deductions for the rich, capital gains tax, and high income mortgage interest deduction. Now the 23 ridiculous loopholes that GoBankingRates.com has: yacht deduction, 15 days of free rental income, HSA pays medical bills past, present, and future, breast augmentation equals tax reduction, okay, cat food deduction, Viva Las Vegas tax deduction, okay, unless you got a gale on your taxes, deductions for deadbeats, some of you are deadbeat dads, but okay. The life insurance loophole. Sounds like prudential, but okay. Home office deduction. Usually home is office, okay. Quality by having a kidnapped child. Okay. You kidnap a child because you don't want to pay your taxes. That is borderline neglect right there. The 529 plan double loophole. Unless you want to dip your chips double, okay. Unless you want to double dip your chips while eating a double cheeseburger while paying your taxes. Greasy hand. You have your greasy left hand while you're writing it down. You still got the greasy hamburger. New Mexico's lifetime earning loophole, the backdoor wealth IRA loophole which we talked about, and the New Mexico's secondary deduction. Those are the ridiculous loopholes. So make sure you understand these loopholes when April 15th comes. It's kind of like Christmas. But when it comes to other foreign corporations, their companies only pay almost $1 taxes, and they spend only like 40-some cents, 70-some cents on taxes. Again, if you don't pay your taxes, you could go to jail. As an American taxpayer, we pay our taxes. All of our tax dollars goes to the schools. And the schools spend our tax dollars a lot because of what happens. Alright, has there been any more school threats? I'll tell you in a moment. Finally tonight, more school threats. 2 coast high schools investigating unrelated school threats. That threat was added after a written threat of a shooting, and for this one, non-emergency threats can be made. And as for the statement of the principal, a statement saying part, sharing and posting innocent information is matter no matter what is safe environment, even any lunch with third, please let school officials. This and that and the other. And another one. Eastside High School was taken into custody after posting a social media thread. He'll be charged with student threats, the deputy said. Parents, like I said before, you need to monitor your child's social media. If you don't monitor your child's social media, you're going to allow them to make threats all you want. Jail, juvenile detention centers could be great. It could be a great lesson for them. Don't bail your child out of jail unless they think it's cool to be sitting up here in jail. It's not cool to be sitting in jail. Jail is bad. They may be saying, have you ever went to jail before? I never went to jail. I've seen jails in movies. I've seen juvenile detention centers. Hell, I even talked about what was it? High Plains Youth Center, a juvenile detention center. And there's even more threats. If we don't do something about this, there could be another school shooting. And what about Oxford? Have they posted new articles about this? Not exactly. They could be back in court this month, and we'll give you the very latest as it comes along. Meanwhile, tomorrow, but we'll keep you posted on everything that's been going on. That's all of this edition of Give Me a Break Friday going to Saturday. We'll see you again for Give Me a Break Saturday night. For all of us here at Give Me a Break on YouTube, have a good weekend, and good night.